on that Druid of the Claw. Here's where you're going to see something. Yeah, he bolts the Demon Hunter and then attacks it with the mortar teams, forces a teleport. Actually, I don't think he attacked it with the mortar teams because he's all out of mortar teams. Forcing the teleport's good. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get down this Ancient of War. I think I've forgotten. I don't think he does. He's probably going to have to run at this point. Although he might keep up the offensive. Yeah, when you're human against Night Elf, if you have any advantage, really, you got to push it. Because you're not going to have much of a chance to take down the Night Elf. So if you've got some sort of an advantage, definitely try and continue that advantage. But once you start losing, it's real tough to get back into the winning circle. So it's a tough decision whether to run or whether to stay. Axelef's pretty good. He compromises here. He sort of runs and stays. But in the end, you're gonna have to make a decision. He gets lucky here because Heart of Stone turns around because he wants to heal. But Axelef clearly comes off the worst in that battle. Even though he's going to take this Ancient War down. Boom! I've always found it funny that priests and sorceresses threw little birds as their spells. It seems sort of weird to me. Anyway, yeah, Axelef's not making a good choice on his fighting here. He's fighting against a far superior force, so he's going to have to run, but in the process, I think he loses a breaker. But he's going to teleport out, and he does lose that breaker. He gets off that bolt, but doesn't kill the Druid of the Claw. So don't be afraid to use your teleport scrolls if you're in a bad spot and you got to get out. Better to use that TP scroll than to lose a bunch of units running away from a Night Elf. So at this point in the game, many humans would become discouraged, but Axelef is just going to keep on building mortar teams, and he's going to try and win this game out. Another key to winning this matchup is perseverance. I mean, human versus Night Elf, it can be tough to win, but you just got to keep trying. I know it sounds kind of lame, but never give up, kids. And at this point, players are creeping, still pumping mortars. Mortars, breakers, and sorceresses and priests are going to be the main army. It might seem sort of weak in the melee department, but you got to do what you got to do. He gets a lucky drop there in boots. That means he has boots on both his Archmage and on his Mountain King. And fast Mountain Kings are always a bitch. And I think at this point he stops making sorceresses in favor of breakers and priests. As far as priests go, it looks like Axelef has about 2 or 3. No, he's got 2, which is about the same amount as sorceresses, as he has sorceresses. So I think he's making some sort of effort to keep those even. You don't want to overload on the casters because then they're just going to load up on dryads, and dryads sort of are going to rip through this strategy. You want to keep him making bears because, oddly enough, bears are going to be the ones that are weak to slow and mortar. Because, I mean, if you got an army of, sorks, priests, and mortar teams, they're going to be able to take down bears better than, okay, I'm not sure where I was going with that, but the point is, you want him to have about an even amount of bears, and, no. You want him to have, you don't want him to overload on dryads, because dryads can beat you pretty bad if you don't have enough mortar teams, so you want to keep the amount of units that counter bears and units that counter dryads about the same. So don't get too many mortars, otherwise he'll load up on bears. Don't get too many casters, otherwise he'll load up on dryads. That's the basic point of this. So you'll see here another example of creep jacking. And this, I think, in this battle, although Mountain King's going to be burned pretty easily here, you might be able to see an example of mortar bolting, which is where you storm bolt a hero and then mortar team it, which makes it very hard for the hero to run away from the mortar, seeing as how he's bolted. Anyway, mortar bolting is a pretty damn good strategy. You'll see him use it against the panda here as well. I mean, you throw a mortar or you throw a bolt and then you get 3 mortar attacks. That's at least 400 damage right there. It's a pretty good nuke. And you'll see here that the front line of Heart of Stone has all been slowed, all those bears. And I mean, they're screwed because they're slowed and the mortars are attacking them and they're being chased. It's tough for a human to run away from a battle with a Night Elf. Almost as tough as it is. No, it's tough for a Night Elf to run away from a battle with a human. Almost as tough as it is for a human to run away from a battle with a Night Elf. So you'll see here how the strat of slow and mortars is really working here. Much better than rifle caster could work in this situation, because the mortars actually are able to do some damage to these Druids of the Claw, or bears as they're commonly called. And really, 3 or 4 spellbreakers is enough tanking for all those for all those bears. That's all the melee you need. So we got, you know, chasing going on. At this point, the game's sort of turning towards Axlab because he was able to really crush all those bears. I mean, every one of those bears is in red HP, except for the ones that are either that I don't remember if those are new or if he rejuvenated them. But yeah, I mean, look at all those red HP units. Slow and then mortar attacks really just took their toll. I mean, even in this battle in his base, after he's done a bit of healing, all those bears are slowed. The Dryads aren't enough to he doesn't have enough Dryads to dispel all the slow, so the bears remain slow, and Axlab does a really good job of just continually moving backwards. He's always moving backwards, and that's what you want to do in the human versus night elf matchup. Get off a round of mortars. If your melee starts getting pounded on too much, move back. Just move back. Keep moving back. Because he is going to be slowed, and it's going to be much harder for him to chase you than it is going to be for you to run back. And sometimes maybe he'll forget a bear, like he does here. If you keep constant movement, you're going to give yourself a lot more chances for him to make mistakes. I know that didn't make much sense, but he's going to be able to make more mistakes if you're the one sort of controlling the tempo of the battle. And you'll see here, I think maybe a bit of mortar bolting, or whatever I called it before. Although he might be doing it to the Demon Hunter. No, he doesn't. He burns the bolt off to the bear. Alright, but yeah, I mean, it's fairly obvious. You guys can see what kind of damage these mortars are causing. The main things I want to, you know, maybe change in your strategies are get some priests. Priests are good. Don't ignore the priests in your strategy. Okay? Don't overload on the sorceresses. A lot of players are going to overload on the sorceresses. I know you pros aren't going to, but you know, don't worry about it. You don't have to overload on the sorceresses. I mean, Axlab's got what, 4, and his Dryads haven't been able to dispel, you know, sufficiently all game. So, and also remember that just a few spell breakers is going to do the trick for you. You don't need that many breakers. He's got 4 breakers here, and that and the Mountain King, of course you get potions on the Mountain King, has been more than enough to, you know, hold off the bears. And just remember the run strategy, alright? His units are slow. They're going to be very slow. You are going to be able to run far better than he's going to be able to. And here you're going to see bolt mortaring right there, and down goes the Demon Hunter. And we'll see if he gets off another bolt. I think he does at the end. That's what ends the game, is him bolting off the Panda, and then kablooey. And that's game. So let's look at, I think at the end Axlab had something like 4 mortars, a few sorceresses. He only had a couple priests left because Heart of Stone had been focusing the priests. But you know, not a tough strat to pull off. Priests, sorceresses, mortar teams, a couple spellbreakers. But just remember that you shouldn't overload on any one unit, is what I'm really trying to get across here. A lot of players will get too many breakers, they'll get too many sorceresses. You don't really see many people getting too many priests, but sometimes people don't get enough priests. You know, you can see too many mortar teams, and bears will just rip right through you. You want a good combination of them in order to beat the Night Elf. You gotta have the same amount of priests as you do sorceresses, you know, roughly around the number. You gotta have the same number of mortar teams. You got spellbreakers. You know, diversity is the key to beating the Night Elf, is what I'm saying here. I mean, you can even add a few Griffins if you have an expo or something, and, you know, have them up on tech or something along those lines. But, you know, that's the key to the game, guys. Diversity in beating Night Elf. I think I made something special to end this this audio with. It's a quote from one of my favorite episodes of Scrubs. So I'll leave that with you, and I'll say Wicked signing off.
You know, I'm not going to have a kid until that genetic technology they've been talking about is available for everyone.
So you want to pick the sex and eye color?
No, gills. When that day comes, it's goodbye hospital, hello father-son treasure hunting team.
Wow. Well, you better get cracking. What are you, like 45?
43. I know I look a little older, but that's just because I drink and smoke heavily and work with chemicals and sleep on my face.
No hard feelings? Okay.
All right. I swear on my unborn fish boy's life she will pay.